Jake Matthews versus Emil Meek takes place on the prelims of UFC Fight Night 168 on ESPN Plus 26 Auckland. Dan Hooker versus Paul Felder? I think not. This should be on the main card. This should be the feature fight of the main card. Fuck Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Zhao Zhangyan. Whatever her fucking name is. Jake Matthews versus Emil Meek is the third most interesting fight on this card, and maybe a competitor for a second. To be honest with you, I don't understand why it's second place on the prelims, and this may shock some of you, and I'm going to unravel a revelation of all time. Second place on the prelims has been the spot for the third most interesting fight of the card every single fight night this year. And I bring your attention to UFC Rally. We're going to get to the prediction in a second. I'm just going to rant for a little bit first. Curtis Blades Jr. dos Santos, Rafael dos Anjos, Michael Chiesa. Where's the third most interesting fight? Second place on the prelims. Arnold Allen versus Nick Lentz. I take you to UFC Rio Rancho. Corey Anderson, Jan Blachowicz, Diego Sanchez, Mikel Pereira. Where's the most third interesting fight? John Dodson versus Nathaniel Wood. Second place on the prelims. I thought this was a UK thing. I thought they were trying to set a time zone because Arnold Allen and Nathaniel Wood are both English so that the UK fans could watch. But this just explains nothing because Jake Matthews and Emil Meek have no relation to the UK whatsoever. So I don't understand. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't get why they're putting them on the second place of the prelims. I don't understand why Jarlin Turner, who's 8-5, is the headliner of the prelims over these two fine specimens of fighters. I really don't understand. I really don't. But you know what? I'm willing to push it to one side. Let's talk about the fight. Jake Matthews, the Celtic Kid, takes on Emil Weber Meek Valhalla. I'm looking forward to it. Emil Meek's been out for a very long time. Been out since, I believe, when's the last time he fought? 2018, July. Holy shit, that's a long time. Since then, Jake Matthews pretty much fought 3 times. He fought a month before Emil Meek. And Jake Matthews hasn't been the most active either. But to be honest with you, that's kind of what I'm going to base this fight on. I think this is a pretty close fight. I don't see Jake Matthews being able to out-wrestle Emil Meek. And I don't see that being the game plan for Jake Matthews either. I feel like Jake Matthews is going to go out there and try to strike. Emil Meek is dangerous to strike with. And that kind of changes the game a little bit. Because if you can't take him down, you're kind of in his world. And he is a huge, powerful welterweight. However, he has been KO'd a couple times earlier on in his career. And I know he's a threatening monster on the feet, but against Jordan Mein, I didn't see that threatening monster. You know I liked the Jordan Mein fight because he had that moment where he lifted Jordan Mein up even with a broken rib. He's very strong. I just didn't see eliteness from Emil Meek, I'll be honest with you guys. I didn't see this savage striker that everyone in the division needs to look out for. With Jake Matthews, on the other hand, he's younger. He's improving more and more between every fight. With Emil Meek, he's part-time. He's a rock star by night. There's fair enough if he was just like, I polish shoes on the weekend. You know, I wouldn't mind that. Hey, I sell lemonade to starving kids. Like, do that stuff on the side. But being a rock star is a commitment, Emil Meek, okay? It's a big commitment. And it's a commitment that 25-year-old Jake Matthews does not have in his life right now. 26 years old. No, he's 25 still. Jesus Christ. And he's got a long time of being 25. He's got another 6 months of it, as a matter of fact. This is a young, talented man that's improving every time we see him go out there. And that was shown very well in his last fight against Rostam Akman as the headliner of the prelims of UFC 243. I loved the fight. It was only in October. So he's staying very active, which I like the sign of. It means he's healthy. That's what it tells me. If a guy comes back after a long time, you don't really know how he's feeling. If a guy turns around 4 months after his last fight, or 3 months after his last fight, you know for damn sure he's healthy, and he's trying to get in as many fights as he can while he's healthy. I like this fight for Jake Matthews against Rostam Akman, who was a dangerous undefeated guy coming in 6-0, hairy. I don't know what that has to play a factor in the fight, that he was hairy. He probably stank. But no, we're not going to talk about that. Either way, Akman was dangerous. Akman was 6-0. People were talking about Rostam Akman as a potential threat to Jake Matthews. Jake Matthews shuts that shit down real quick. Made it look easy by a unanimous decision. I like Jake Matthews here. He's only had 1 loss in the UFC welterweight division, and that's to Anthony Rocco Martin, which, as I've said before many times, it's not a bad loss. And he was doing well that fight as well. I think he dropped, he did. He dropped Anthony Rocco Martin at some point, I believe in the second round, at the end of it. Smashed Anthony Rocco Martin and dropped him with big power, and he was overthrowing that fight. And I feel like he learned a lesson against Anthony Rocco Martin, because Rocco Martin, He gets under guys' skin. Okay? First of all, he gets under guys' skin by having those mutton chops. Because you have to hate someone with that kind of facial hair. Listen. Let it come from me. I'm the master of shit facial hair, okay? I know my own people. Anthony Rocco Martin sporting them mutton chops to cause hatred in his opponents, okay? He knew what he was doing. He was talking shit to Jake Matthews as well. And I feel like Jake Matthews in the fight against Anthony Rocco Martin could have probably won. But he was overthrowing his shots. He was being emotional. He was throwing haymakers, which we never see him do. And that was shown in the Ackman fight just after. Comes back, patient, technical, no haymakers. Combinations, leg kicks, like way more technical from Jake Matthews. He's a young kid. Anthony Rocco Martin taught him a valuable lesson on being emotional, because Anthony Rocco Martin, although he's not the most entertaining fighter, he will freeze you and he will talk shit to you, and then you'll make mistakes and he'll capitalize. And that's what he did against Jake Matthews, and that's just the Anthony Rocco Martin game plan. I like the way Jake Matthews' career is going. I don't like the inactivity of Emil Meek, I'll be honest with you. I don't like the fact that he's coming off 2 losses. And I don't like the fact that he hasn't fought in a year and a half. At 31 years of age. That one does worry me. And not only has he not fought in a year and a half, he's coming back to New Zealand. If there was one place in the world that I would not want to make a comeback after a very long layoff, it would be across the fucking world to Australia or New Zealand. Anywhere but there would be fine for my long-awaited comeback fight. It's dangerous, man. I feel like Jake Matthews has got this one in the bag. It should be on the main card. It's second place on the prelims. Apparently that's where all the good fights are going to be from now on. So, I mean, I guess it gets us watching the prelims. It gets some guys watching the prelims that wouldn't before. I watch every prelims anyway, but, you know, we'll see what the UFC does with this. This is a great fight, though. I just wish it was on the main card, because even if they know it's a bigger name and they're putting it on the prelims anyway, the main card gets all the hype. Like, some of these websites don't even cover the prelims. MMA media members are casual fans. They are. They cover controversy. They cover the biggest fights on the card that are on the co-main and main event, and anything else on the prelims doesn't even get a fucking shine. It doesn't at all. So I don't know why they've done this, but they've done it anyway. I guess it maybe alleviates a bit of pressure for Jake Matthews, so I'm going to see that as maybe a bit of a positive. I think Jake Matthews gets this one done. More experienced, fought better competition as well, fought longer in the UFC as well. Emil Meek, I mean, you know, the level of competition where he was coming from, you know, wasn't the best. Wasn't the best level of competition, I'll be honest with you guys. I mean, he earned his way into the UFC beating Paul Harris, and then he beat Jordan Mean in his debut. As I said before in a previous video, that's basically like an old man bundle. Hey, we're going to give you these 2 old fucks that don't know how to do it anymore, and we're going to let you in the UFC. That's how I feel about it. I love Emil Meek, by the way. I think he's funny. I think he could be a superstar in the UFC if he puts it all together. I feel like he's going to come up far short against Jake Matthews. The combinations for Jake Matthews are there. The patience of Jake Matthews is there. And I feel like if there's one guy who's going to break in a technical striking match, it's Emil Meek, because he has a knack for doing what it takes to entertain a crowd. He is a very entertaining fighter, and I know for a fact that he will not like being booed. And I feel like that's where this fight's going to lead. I think Jake Matthews and him are going to have a bit of a standoff, a little bit of a technical altercation, if you will, where both of them are kind of staring at each other, throwing feints. Jake Matthews throwing real technical shots, trying to pick him apart with leg kicks, making it a very dull fight. The boos are going to start to emerge from the New Zealand rowdy crowd, and Emil Meek's going to go crazy, ending up getting caught, and I think he's going to get finished in the 3rd round by TKO after he can't take the technical striking anymore and wants to make it a brawl. I think he's going to get caught and punished for being too aggressive. In the 3rd round, I'm picking Jake Matthews. The competition's better, the experience is better, the skill level's better, the activity is better, the momentum's on his side because he's coming off a big win just 4 months ago. All signs point to Jake Matthews, but you know how the fucking UFC is. Emil Meek could come out of there with the fucking soul of Harold Hadrada himself, the king of the Vikings, and take out Jake Matthews in the 1st round. You just never know. Emil Meek's got big power. I feel like Jake Matthews is going to be patient enough in the 1st round to avoid some of that power, and then come back in the later rounds and just make it a bit of a freeze frame. You know what I'm saying? Make it a stalemate. Make Emil Meek get emotional and try and throw. Jake Matthews going to catch him coming in and put him out cold. And people say, Emil Meek, you know, he's shown no signs of a bad chin. He got KO'd twice before he got to the UFC. Being KO'd a couple times now, okay? And at welterweight, being KO'd twice before you get to the UFC, it's tough. It's tough to get behind. I'm going to go with Jake Matthews. I like him at welterweight. I really do. I think he's fought way better fucking opponents. Let's be real. I mean, I look at Emil Meek's record. Don't get me wrong. You know, he was 2-1. Oh my God, Jesus Christ. They really threw him to some... There's experienced guys. Don't get me wrong. They are experienced guys, but they just aren't good records. Like, he's 2-1, and he's facing a guy who's 15-21. That's okay, but also 15-21. You know? He's fought decent competition, honestly. I don't know why I'm shitting on him so much, but I just don't feel like he's going to get it done, to be honest. I'm always kind of let down by Emil Meek's performances. Maybe it's because of his injuries. I actually kind of hope he comes out here and fucks up Jake Matthews. You know what? I'm team Emil Meek, but I'm going to pick Jake Matthews. I want Emil Meek to go out there and kind of fuck him up, to be honest. He's got the reach advantage on the feet. That's going to help. Got the size advantage. Got the strength advantage as well. Wouldn't be surprised if he went out there and tried to wrestle Jake Matthews, to be honest with you. I just feel like Jake Matthews is the younger kid, improving more rapidly. Going to get better this time on activity. I think he's going to do the job. Get it finished against Emil Meek. But I'm rooting for Emil Meek, to be honest. Because he definitely could be a superstar. He has the look. He has the chiselation of abdominal muscles that is required to be a superstar in the UFC. Unless you have tattoos over them, of course. When's the last time I breathed? Jesus Christ, that was a big breath I had to take there. I just think Jake Matthews wins, man. Sorry, guys. I think he's too technical. Look, he beat... Oh, my God, he beat Li Jingliang. I forgot about that. Look at what the fucking storm that Li Jingliang's been on recently. He's been on an absolute spree since losing to Jake Matthews. That was when Li Jingliang was poking at his eyes and shit. I'm telling you, Jake Matthews is a monster. I think he's going to win. He's beat great opponents. Shinjo Anzai, who was 10-2. Bojan Velikovic, who went to a competitive decision with Darren Till just before the fight with Jake Matthews. So that wasn't a bad one. He's only lost at 55 when he was draining his body, and that was to Kevin Lee. James Vick, the GOAT himself. You know what I'm saying? I don't mind this. I really don't. I really don't. I think Jake Matthews wins this one, I'll be honest with you guys. I'm rooting for Emil Meek. I like Emil Meek. I think he's a very entertaining personality. Could be a superstar in the UFC. I'm just, in my crystal ball, it's not happening. Jake Matthews finishes him in the 3rd round. Like and subscribe. And to be honest with you, something big needs to be around the corner for Jake Matthews. They've had him fight in Australia and New Zealand, and both times he's been on the fucking prelims. I don't understand, man. I really don't fucking get it. Oh, man. I'm going to kill baby elephants or something. Anyway, whatever, man. It's a good fight card. Looking forward to it. I just feel like Jake Matthews needs a bit of spotlight, you know? If he wins this one, if he ain't on the main card next, of whatever he is on, if it's a pay-per-view or a fight night, I'm going to do something. And I'll be in the news shortly. Like and subscribe. Click that button there. Goodbye. Jake Matthews by 3rd round TKO.